Monti Ossenfort continues to rework the Arizona Cardinals defensive front seven, this time by reuniting Cardinals with Calais Campbell. Campbell going to finish his career where it started here in the desert, Johnny Venerable.
Yeah, and how does big number 93 impact the Cards and Ossenfort's plans at pick 16? PHNX Cardinals Emergency Pod starts now. Hey, welcome in. Live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. Download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. Johnny Venerable, he's Brack in Studio K. Damon, Dawg behind the mic. Been a hot minute since we've done one of these. Arizona Cardinals signed Calais Campbell to a 1-year deal. We're breaking it all down. Their first meaningful impact signing since Dalvin Tomlinson almost 3 weeks ago. We thought the next move might come in the secondary. It might indirectly now. We're going to break all of that down. Brack, how we living, my guy?
We're living well. Look, it's a little dicey when there's breaking news on April 1st, right? When you check the calendar, you say, can I trust this? And when it's coming from the multiple, NFL insiders out there and then quickly official by the team, you can trust it. Yeah, number 93, Calais Campbell, returning to where it all started, where he played 9 seasons. He was drafted by the Cardinals in the second round out of the U in 2008. Campbell returns, man. It's a tip of the cap to Monti Ossenfort for getting this deal done. A tip of the cap to Adam H on Twitter. I think my favorite tweet so far, finally getting that Calais Campbell replacement. Finally finding one. I think
Nice.
it's good.
Nice. Only took,
took a few years.
Yeah. He leave in 2016. It's almost 10 years he's been gone. Now he's back. We love a good reunion, right? Carlos Dansby did it once upon a time. Now Calais Campbell. I mean, definitely, it will turn out well regardless. But no, we'll welcome everybody in the chat. We've got almost 400 already watching live. Drop us a like. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. We had a loaded show already before this news broke. Adam Schefter breaking the news bow. And I feel like the trickle-down effect is significant. I know you got some people out there that suggest, well, he's 38 and it's a 1-year deal. How could this impact as it relates to what's going down with the Arizona Cardinals at 16? But I don't know. I think when we've been mocking defensive linemen left and right at 16, and you look at the group the Cardinals have, I don't know how you don't kind of overreact to everything going on right now.
No, your reaction should just be all positive. Like, I understand the age, right? But this should be a universally liked move for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, if you understand how Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rollis like to rotate their defensive linemen, adding another able body, a guy that's still playing at a high level, but also not having to rely entirely on him as he's just another piece of the puzzle. Calais Campbell fits right into what they want to do. He fit in where they were last year around the trade deadline, but Calais wanted to stay in Miami instead of going back to Baltimore, even coming back to Arizona. He chose to stay with the Dolphins. And look, they were into the bitter end. But this is a move that's going to fit the Arizona Cardinals schematically. And this is going to be, in the short term, sure, something great for Campbell to come finish his career where it started. There is no downside to this. This just increases the competition in a room where there was no competition as, early as, last year. But now you're flush with bodies, and you've added, especially in the interior of the defensive line, Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell, 2 guys over 30, along with some young bucks in there and the potential add to the draft, a very talent-rich draft. I love the move.
Yeah, it's a great move. It's a home run. It's a move that I think we all would have applauded even after Josh Sweat, right? that couldn't have been the only move on the defensive line, but we had talked about it this offseason. And I was trying to find the report, and we had kind of been noting some of the calls they had been making at the trade deadline last year. Didn't it come out the Cardinals called on Calais Campbell and his availability during the trade deadline? I'm fairly certain they did. And obviously Miami hung on to him, and, it finished the season well. And by all accounts, Kyle Krabs and some people cover the Miami Dolphins. I'm sure Damon can key us in on this. They wanted to bring Calais Campbell back. Calais Campbell talked about maybe finishing his career there. And you look at this contract, this is not a throwaway nothing contract. $5.5 million with the opportunity to earn up to $7.5 million, I think. So this is not a one-year flyer deal, Bo. When you talk about a guy like, respectfully, LJ Collier, who I think signed close to the vet minimum, that's not this. Yes, this could be perceived as retiring where it all started, and we'll get to that narrative. But he had bidders for his services. He could have played really for any of the 32 franchises. As cliche as this sounds, this is a move you make when you feel like you're close, and then this is kind of the window dressing. It can't be the Josh Sweat of the world, right? You had to go out and do that deal, and even Tomlinson. But now this is the question we always had about Monti Ossenfort, and this is what enabled Steve Keim to keep his head above water for so long. After the first wave of free agency, April, May, June, can you go out and find guys that unequivocally help your team and are not going to bankrupt you past this year? And this is the first time, really, in 3 years that Ossenfort has signed a meaningful player post-March of 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. It does signify, hey, win now. It's like we're past the draft and develop stage, even though there's always going to be a part of the organization and the roster that's going to be in that mode just to be consistently successful year in and year out. That's the plan, right? But as far as what they want to do up front defensively, Calais Campbell is not going to stand in the way of anybody's development here. He's just going to be able to aid and mentor along with that. I've already seen it a bunch of times in my mentions at the tip of the cap of those who are saying this, like Darius Robinson, Dante Stills, the young bucks in that room, what they're going to be able to benefit from 17 seasons of NFL play at a high level. 12 of those, he had 10 plus TFLs in those seasons. This is a guy that finished second in the NFL in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And then also, he fits right into the brand new culture. He takes, the culture of old, a Super Bowl run all the way back in 2008, the Bruce Arians era, nearly the entire damn thing of it, and then gets to time travel past the very thin years, hopefully to the budding Jonathan Gannon era, where he gets to kind of be another guy that does it on and off the field, an all-star on and off the field. And I think, you take the guy who had close to 40 total pressures last year, which would have led the Cardinals, 5 sacks from the interior, a guy that you, me, Damon, and the rest of the crew, the PHNX Cardinals crew that went to Miami and South Beach and watched that game and saw that Calais Campbell was the most disruptive defensive player on the field that day. He still possessed
on both sides.
Yeah.
He was the best player on the defensive line for both teams, which is nuts, right?
Yeah,
it's like we were grabbing for straws whatever we could that day, and it was like, Calais Campbell, can you come out of the locker room wear 93 for the Arizona Cardinals at half? I think Calais Campbell, at the end of the day, this is going to be en route to him being retired, Ring of Honor. They're going to put him up in the rafters. It's one of the greatest picks in the history of the franchise, and I think it's one of the greatest picks in modern draft era, where is he going to be in the Hall of Fame? Probably not, but Hall of Very Good. I think he's easily cemented himself. He was drafted in 2008.
I think he's a Canton guy.
You think so? You think he gets in?
Yeah, 110 and a half sacks, second in Defensive Player of the Year. Off the field is philanthropic as it gets. He's got the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I think he is. Is he first ballot? Probably not.
Listen, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, I understand, but I think he's just one of those guys where the resume it's too good to keep out, and he does everything right. He's going to have sports writers from the Valley to every stop of the way that he would. Baltimore, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Miami, where guys are going to go vouch for Calais Campbell. So I think that's something that is in his future, and it's this mix, this nostalgia, but mixed with the new of the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to just setting the the foundation for something special potentially in 2025. Like you get Calais. They've already been like putting Patrick Peterson videos on the team Twitter account with Larry Fitzgerald videos. Like, are a couple big time Ring of Honors coming in, and one of their former teammates still playing at a high level on the team. Like the season before Larry Fitzgerald gets his call to Canton.
Yeah.
Like so a lot of exciting things going on with this Cardinals organization. And you know, this is just not something to turn your nose up at just as news on a Tuesday afternoon on April 1st.
I mean, it signals that, I mean, we feel like we're pretty confident at least one of the first 2 picks of this draft is going to be a defensive player, if not both of them. I mean, you're talking about a defense right now that has an opportunity to be a top 10 unit for the first time. I was trying to pull up the figures. Maybe since Calais Campbell left, I don't know if Vance Joseph had a top 10 defense. He might have one of those years.
I think it was just on the outside looking in. I think like
it felt like
what metric you want to go through. It's like anywhere from like 11, 12th. They were in the top 10 for the bulk of that season, and things fell off as they usually did during that era of Cards football.
This feels like the best chance to have a top defense since Todd Bowles in 2014, which, ironically had Calais Campbell playing defensive tackle for it.
Yeah.
The trickle-down effect is significant. Real quick, locker room aspect. I mean, like, I hate beating this narrative, but we got to talk about it. Like, Calais Campbell is one of the guys where if your team is struggling to win games in November, December, and January, like this helps with that. Somebody who's done it all, seen it all, been part of championship organizations, helped to get, he was a rookie on the Super Bowl team. He's been to NFC championship games. Like I'm not going to say you're not going 2-5 with Calais Campbell on your team down the stretch, but you have a better chance now to go into Seattle, right? Late in the year, to go into LA and disrupt Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford and Brock Purdy. I mean, the Cardinals now, Sweat by itself could not be the cure-all, but Sweat with Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, like a James Pierce Jr., sign me up for that, or a Landon Jackson plus. Now you're talking about a unit where, hey, then there's Darius, and then there's B.J. Ojulari and Baron Browning, who don't have to be world beaters, right? Can come in and play a role. I know a lot of people are questioning, like, how are they going to feed all these guys? Did you guys watch the Super Bowl with JG a couple of years ago? Did you watch the Super Bowl this year? This is going to set up Nick Rallis to be a future head coach in the NFL at these kind of moves, because we know we're going to be eating good 3.5 weeks from now at the NFL draft. I put it out on Twitter. Universally, the Cardinals were viewed as having the worst front four, maybe the front seven, but worst front four in the NFL the last 2 years. Really wasn't up for debate. PFF and bunch of, ESPN. ESPN picked them to finish last defensively last year. I don't know where they're at now with their front four. They're certainly not last anymore. They're probably itching toward the top 20, which is a huge step for this franchise. Yeah,
I wouldn't concern yourself with the numbers crunch. It's a good numbers crunch to have.
Yeah.
Like having an embarrassment of, what can you truly call riches, but you have, NFL caliber players, guys that, and especially in a rotation, can be very effective and impactful as far as what Gannon and Rallis want to do. And it's starting to kind of resemble what you saw in that 2022 Eagles team, where it's just like, they had Fletcher Cox. Yeah, they had Jordan Davis, right? They had Milton Williams on that. And then still later in that season, they're like, let's bring on Ndamukong Suh. I know he's long in the tooth, but he's still a guy that on, a down, like if we're asking him to go out there and play a role on a down, he's going to be able to do it and impact the game. Same thing can be said for Calais Campbell. If you tell me you're going to bring in Calais Campbell and, going into his 39th year on this earth, and you're going to ask him to play 70% of the snaps, I would have said, that's a bad idea. But he played 58% of the snaps for the Dolphins last year. Perfect. Cardinals could probably get him down to about 55%, and he'll impact the game just as well. So I love it. I mean, now you start to look at it where it's, okay, you brought in Dalvin Tomlinson. You've got big aspirations for your first-round pick in Darius Robinson. You got Calais Campbell, and then you start to say, all right, guys, we got 2 to 3 more spots. Battle it out for it. And it's the healthiest competition that you can find. I mean, if we make it that far, I mean, we'll see what the future holds, the near future holds for guys like Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones. But I agree with you. I don't think it rules out, leaning into this draft and getting somebody controllable for the next 4 years. But it does give you the ability to pivot any direction 16th overall.
Around the corner, we're going to look at the Cardinals defensive line group as it stands right now and how it could change. But real quick, I want to give my point out. This is an overcorrection, and it needed to happen because for 3 off seasons, you and I have been doing the show together, 4, but during this era of Ossenfort and JG, and they had ignored the line of scrimmage with quality defensive linemen. 2 years ago, they did nothing. They let Zach Allen leave. Last year, mid-tier to lower-tier signings, respectfully, with Nichols and Jones. No pass rushers, no edge rushers of note, right? 2 over-reliant on Ojulari, 2 over-reliant on Darius. This is an overcorrection. You do not, your 3 moves of note in free agency are defensive linemen in a defensive lineman draft, which we know they will target. So congratulations. This needed to happen. But to your point, I think they know how dire it was, that they can never allow themselves to be in this position again. And that starts in the draft. And let's get some guys that don't have to come in and save the team and the defensive line right away. And I think 16, 47, 78, we're going to have that conversation. Who's in and who's out with Calais Campbell in the fold? We're talking about it right around the corner. It's PHNX Cardinals. Drop a like on this video. Monti Ossenfort, I'll give him credit. He's been money this offseason. What about your money? Take care of it with our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union, the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals, PHNX Sports, and the Venerable household. It's because for more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community, providing financial solutions that make lives better. It's not just a one-off transaction. They've got committed members that are here to take care of this community, your community. Financial solutions tailored to helping real-life people like you, like me, achieve our financial goals and dreams, checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. Plus, if you're a fan of the Arizona Cardinals, and why wouldn't you be if you're watching this fine podcast, rep the Red Sea with the Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. As you can see on the screen, you can get the player, the helmet, or the Redbird. I've got it. It's fantastic. Show your Cardinals team spirit right now. Open up a free checking account online. Go to desertfinancial.com/CardinalsBo to get started.
Love that. Also love the foundation that Monti Ossenfort's laid here for the Arizona Cardinals. You're going to love the foundation laid in your living space when you're looking at some new flooring from our friends over at Empire Today. It's always a daunting task to replace flooring, right? It seems like it's an unbelievably large undertaking, but when you got Empire Today, you can shop at home with the convenience, with the right product for your needs, with quick professional installation, and of course, that price match guarantee. You think you can go find a better price? It's not going to meet the quality, but Empire Today is going to honor that. Check them out right now and get the best place to get new flooring. Can't beat it on quality, service, and speed. Check them out right now. Schedule your free in-home estimate today. Also, check out their virtual floor designer. You go on to empiretoday.com/PHNX. Get in on the virtual floor designer. Just get out your smartphone, take a picture of your dwelling, and you can see what new flooring, new carpeting would look in that, how it would look in that space. Schedule that free in-home estimate today. Our listeners receive $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. That's going to the website, empiretoday.com/PHNX, using the code PHNX and checking out the website for all the details.
Drop us a like. We've got over 1,100 watching live. The goal today, of course, is 500 likes here on a football Tuesday, April 1st. But we're not joking around about how much we need your likes and anchoring our way, pummeling our way to 40,000 subscribers here on the YouTubes. Fired up. We've been white hot as a network. Big thanks to everybody here at PHNX Sports, everybody here in the chat. Again, smash that like button and smash it if you're pro Calais Campbell back. I know Bo and I are. You're raising the talent floor. And the Cardinals, we feel pretty good about. Okay, they had to start 3 defensive linemen, whatever combination it would be. And I'm talking, I think there's some confusion on Twitter. And again, D-end versus edge rusher, D-tackle, D-lineman, right? There's too many labels, all right? All I know, this is how the easiest way to break it up is there's a position group that the Cardinals have that are edge rushers who rush the passer, and they work out by themselves. Ojulari, Zaven Collins, Baron Browning, now Josh Sweat, right? Yep. Then there's a group of big heavies up front, and that's everybody we're about to talk about. So again, D-end, D-tackle, whatever you want to call it. There are
Johnny. Now he doesn't line up in this stance. Technically, you're wrong there. Yeah,
when
none of that.
when we're at practice, when you're at practice, there are
Yes.
the edge rushers,
Yep.
and then there are the defensive tackles, ends, linemen, whatever, and you can mix and match them.
Yeah.
This is the group right now on paper that the Arizona Cardinals will go into offseason team activities with, the guys that we expect to be in the running. Let's take a look at it, Damon. The defensive line core, okay? The new additions at the top, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, are locks to make this team. Immediately come in and be alongside Darius Robinson, the first rounder last year, the best 3 defensive linemen that you have. Then it gets interesting. Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols were the bells of the balls for the franchise last offseason. Okay, they signed 2 contracts.
What a sad, pathetic ball that was.
It was. Yeah, we laugh at it now. Bilal Nichols this year, his cap hit almost $8 million higher than Paris Johnson and Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson. Not good. And then there's Jonah Williams, who is making, I don't know, $16 million as the second highest paid Cardinal on the roster this year. Jonah Williams is signed through not Jonah Williams, I'm sorry. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, I'm sorry. Justin Jones is making $11 million. Excuse me, I read the wrong name. But again, combined salary of $20 million. And then you've got LJ Collier, who was re-signed this offseason. Like they said, we want to bring you back. You were productive last year. He's making close to the vet minimum. And then, of course, Dante Stills is a 6th rounder who's been productive and healthy, is making no money. So I'll throw it to you to begin this conversation. Who is out and who is in right now for the Arizona Cardinals defensive line?
Man, I mean, that's a conversation that I think that you can push down the line here and let the competition kind of figure that out for you. Like, just let it happen more organically. Do they want to give these guys the benefit of finding work? You know, maybe they want to be respectful to the players that they believed in, invested in, you know, at this time last year. But at the same time, I think they want to fuel this thing by competition. Like when we talked to Jonathan Gannon in Indianapolis at the Combine, and I brought up the numbers crunch back then. I was like, okay, well, Monti Ossenfort saying that he's excited to have both Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones back. You got Darius Robinson. You got Dante Stills on the roster. This is even before the signing of Dalvin Tomlinson. And he's, would you guys hesitate to add? And he's like, no, absolutely not. We're not going to hesitate to bring in competition and improve our roster. And this is an absolute sign of that. But now I think you can really just look at this list and say the top 3 are the guys that really can not necessarily take training camp off, but breathe a little easier than the rest of the group, right? Like Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, and Darius Robinson are probably the guys that have the leg up as far as a spot in the rotation. But, you know, outside of that, I don't think anything is guaranteed for the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I think I butchered that earlier, but Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols are signed through 2026.
Their contract, though, like for your question, like mostly going to be attached to a significant amount of dead money. I mean, unless the Cardinals just want to try to get off the hook for the complete amount, you know, and do some, you know, contract maneuvering there. I think that it's not going to play a role as far as their roster spot.
No,
like, at some point
it would have already probably played a role.
Yeah. I think LJ Collier and Brandon and Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols were placeholders to an extent. And I say that, and I don't mean that disrespectful, like guys that they feel like, hey, you can go out there and they can play snaps for you and you can feel confident about it. Even though you didn't feel comfortable as a fan watching that, there's belief in the organization. But yeah, I think that the 2 most recent additions in Darius Robinson are the most kind of locks to make this roster. I mean, Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson come in and, you know, Calais had 39 total pressures. Dalvin Tomlinson had 36. That leads that group by a significant amount. You added Josh Sweat, he would have led the Cardinals, almost doubled up the next closest player. Yeah, I mean, as far as your fight, like JG says, sacks aren't a winning stat, but pressures is important, and they brought in guys that were able to dial it up last year.
And Dante Stills had 4.5 sacks last year, played 16 games. He's making no money. He's got 2 years left of cheap labor. I don't think they're in any rush to cut a guy who has overachieved out of West Virginia, because if he's cut, he's claimed by another team. He's on another roster. I don't think there's any.
At the same time, it's not irreplaceable.
Right, but why would you cut a guy that you're like, well, I could keep him, right, and develop him just because I don't want to cut Bilal Nichols or Justin Jones today? We know full well.
Yeah.
Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones are not starting for the Cardinals anymore. We feel pretty confident about that. Or at least are not, the responsibilities of what their $20+ million cap hits would suggest are not there anymore. That to me signals one, if not both, could be released before the start of training camp, depending on, the Cardinals could use a top 100 pick on a defensive lineman. That player's making the team. Okay. Yeah. A defensive tackle, first, second, third round. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then you've got the 3 guys you mentioned. LJ Collier was a stalwart last year, busted his ass off, played in almost every game. They wanted to bring him back. I think at minimum, I'll go out on a limb, at minimum, one of Jones or Nichols is cut, whether it's in camp or before then. What you also have to keep in mind, and you know this, Bilal Nichols was not good in the games that he played. Neither was Justin Jones. Right. It's not like they loved what they saw from LJ Collier, and then he got hurt 2 years ago. Remember that? And then he came back last year and played really well. The guys they paid last year, not only was it a snafu because they were hurt, they did not look good in camp. Darius Robinson was doing laps around those guys. So you want to talk about competition, I do think it takes care of itself, but I have no interest in paying those guys to be on the team and not help, not give an impact.
But here's my point, and I don't disagree with you. Like the cheap, controllable money, you kind of puff your chest out because it's a 6th-round pick that you turn into a guy that can play snaps for you in Dante Stills. But I think what my point is, as far as the rest of this group, whether it's Dante Stills or the 2 guys that got paid last offseason and Nichols and Jones, I don't think any roster politics comes into play here. I think it's just going to be strictly competition based.
I would disagree with Stills, not Collier, but if Dante Stills plays well the next 2 years and he's a free agent and somebody overpays for him and you get a comp pick, that's what the Cardinals want to be. If he's not part of their plan in 2 years, then he can go out and get overpaid in free agency, and then you supplement. Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols are on the back ends of their career, especially, I think Justin Jones, isn't he almost 30? I can't remember. I'm sorry, probably 27, 28. They're coming off injury. I don't love that messaging. And again, I'm not going to lose sleep about it. And on paper, most casual fans would know who Justin Jones is over Dante Stills, but I don't know. I think 4.5 sacks for a kid who played his butt off last year, who's been asked to play a lot. I think Dante Stills, with limitations with a snap count, instead of being asked to play way too much because the other guys who were making big money couldn't produce, I'd be excited to see. Gannon was raving about him 2 years at the combine. We were with him. So, but I'm with you.
I just don't want people to fall in love with these guys. Like you want the best 5 rotational players. And it's like, well, this guy was a draft pick. Like there's something way more endearing about a guy that you drafted in the 6th round that worked his way, instead of guys that you felt like, man, we overpaid for those guys and they gave us nothing year one. I hate them. With the most fire in my chest. But it's it's going to come down to the best 5 guys that they identify through, whether it's OTAs and mandatory, or if it even gets to training camp. If it gets as far as training camp, it's truly going to be a competition.
Well, and it lends itself to think that that's what they're doing. It is a good problem to have, Chris. I don't think you bring back Collier and Calais and not want those guys to make the team. When you pay guys combined $20 million and you get nothing in terms of production, it feels like, again, I know you're arguing for competition, and Ossenfort had talked about those guys are going to get an opportunity this offseason. I feel like the franchise it's passed those guys by. Now they're still collecting checks, but the expectation of those 2 guys last year, it's come and gone. They have literally, if you're sitting at home, if you're Jones and Nichols, this team has gone out and proactively added people that play your position and could very well do the same thing 3.5 weeks from now. I wouldn't feel good about
Good
my
teams
job.
do, man. That's what good teams
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I'm so glad to see it instead of like just be a middling group. And it's like,
Right.
hey, we're gonna go kick the tires on this guy and bring him in, and maybe he can make an impact. Most likely not. They're like that's the current group now, and the group, like, the dynamic can change too post draft, and it should. Like, there's gonna be some guys that have a lot of opportunity and potential in this deep draft class. Like, if it might rule out Monti Ossenfort taking a guy 16th overall, 47th overall at the position, but this draft is so deep, you could take a guy 78th or in the hundreds that you feel like, hey, we've got now the bodies
like
in
Bill
this,
Williams.
Yeah, to develop this guy. What's Ross saying? Sorry.
People are rightfully so. They're saying they were hurt. Let him come back and compete. I don't discredit that. The games that they were healthy, they were atrocious. Bilal Nichols played 6 games for this team last year. And who knows? Maybe he was hurt the whole time and we didn't know about it. Routinely, and PFF's not the end all be all, routinely one of the worst players for the Cardinals defensively last year. His PFF grade last year was 39. He was awful. And he looked slow on tape. So again, this isn't me saying, hey, this guy has a proven track record, anomaly hurt year. Like, we're trying to do that with Jonah Williams right now. Jonah Williams was solid, came to the Cardinals, was hurt all year. Let's try it again, right? I can understand that. Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, first of all, the Cardinals overpaid them last year, right? It was an overpay for 3-year contract for both those players. They came in and they were not good when they were healthy. That's the only point I'm trying. Now, listen, if they've had all offseason and get their bodies right and they come in and they look fantastic, I absolutely don't cut them loose yet. But to suggest like they were ready to go to help the Cardinals win the NFC, they were liabilities when they played, and it was obvious.
Yeah. Michael asking, did Calais come home? Absolutely. I saw in the chat, it's way too high, but about Calais can come in, he's going to sit in the locker room. I'm like, what the hell? It hasn't changed.
It's actually gotten worse.
Yeah. What? Like, did you guys just put duct tape over that burst pipe? Like,
hey, Calais, you don't have to pay for your food anymore, though, bro. This one's on us. This one's
big
on
time.
us.
Man, I don't have to use my own change in the vending machine. Perfect.
We were going to leave
coffee right there on that floor.
We were going to lead the show with the best combination of defensive tackles in the first round and then edge rushers in the second round, right? And while we're not going to lean into that as heavily, Damon was going to make a fire graphic. I hope, Damon, did you ever start that graphic?
Which one?
No, one that I put in earlier today. It's hopefully not. It was we were listing the defensive lineman worthy of a first round pick, and then the edge rushers worthy of a second.
No, I didn't.
It was like a choose your own adventure type.
Yeah, it was fun at the Scholastic Book Fair of defensive linemen. Good. I'm glad, because we might have to pivot. Are the Cardinals going to pivot off a defensive tackle 16th overall? That's coming up.
First, we got to tell you about our friends over at Cornbread Hemp. Our friends over there, America's first ever USDA organic CBD company. They want to improve the quality of life with the highest quality hemp. They're dead serious about it. Check it out right now. If you're looking for a healthier way to relieve aches and pains instead of just putting down, over-the-counter medication, get away from that. Get a better night's sleep. Feel better with Cornbread Hemp's USDA organic CBD gummies. Cornbread offers the first USDA organic CBD gummy in the U.S., and their CBD gummies are the highest quality, full-spectrum gummies on the market. Certified organic, made from flower only, third-party lab testing. So the potency, it's right there. The contaminants, make sure there's none of them. Vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, no artificial flavors or preservatives. Take Cornbread's 2-minute quiz and get custom recommendation tailored to your needs. They want to fit what you're looking for from your hemp product. Check them out right now. If you want Cornbread Hemp, then give it a try. They're offering PHNX listeners 30% off their first order from Cornbread Hemp. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX. Use the promo code PHNX at checkout. cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX. Use the code PHNX for 30% off your first order. This is the good life.
Speaking of the good life, you making money with our friends at Bet365. I don't think you could get Calais Campbell future odds, but that's okay. You can do the NBA tip-off Tuesdays right now. It's never ordinary with Bet365. See for yourself with tip-off Tuesdays and their offer. Place a qualifying parlay bet totaling $20 or more on NBA tip-off Tuesdays. Get up to $25 back in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. Again, download the app. Use the bonus code PHNX365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with Bet365. Plus, they've got 100% parlay boosts. That'll be your winnings on parlays with Bet365. 100% parlay boost. Download the app today. It's Bet365. Again, you got to be 21 years and older, physically located here in the great state of Arizona. If you were someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov for more info. And speaking of info, we got almost 1,600 people watching live. If you need some plans on draft night, Thursday, April 24th, spin with us. It's the third annual PHNX Cardinals draft party. We sold out last year. We're on the verge of selling out. We want to party with you Thursday, April 24th. Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass, Upper Deck Kitchen and Bar. Your ticket, which can be purchased in the show link or on Twitter or in the show notes, is going to get you all-you-can-eat buffet. You're going to get 3 drink tickets. It's 21 years and older, plus giveaways, signed jerseys, footballs, helmets. I'm pretty sure we've given out like Calais Campbell signed footballs before at these kind of outings. But this is the biggest, baddest party we do every single year. I don't want to say it's very exclusive, but it's not like an open field. It doesn't feel impersonal. It's very personable. Myself, Bo, Damon, we're going to be doing a live broadcast throughout the duration of the first round. We're going to be walking around. We're going to be hanging out. We want to party with you on draft night, Thursday, April 24th at Gila River Resorts. Tag us on Twitter. Buy your tickets now. If you're a diehard, you're getting 20% off your tickets no matter how many you buy. Tag us on Twitter. Retweet, follow from us and the Beat account. Do it now. We'll see you at the draft party.
Double down. Save some money on your draft day tickets and also save some money on becoming a diehard today. Word is you got to go phnx.com/diehard. You can find pretty nice deal if you haven't signed up already. Maybe we can even get Calais out there. Who knows? Calais Campbell Foundation. It's a great foundation. Can't wait him to get back into the community that he served so well during the 9 years that he was here in his first stint with the Cardinals, but drafted 2008, already seeing it coming out on his Instagram. He's got that, the Cardinals making that pick. So Campbell pumped up to be back here, but what does it mean for the Arizona Cardinals in this year's draft? Johnny and I, if you look at our, we might have to tweak our top 100, but probably not too much because it's such a defensive front seven rich draft that the Cardinals would benefit still tapping into it. I mean, Calais is going to be 39 this year. So, what was your first reaction draft wise when you saw the signing of Campbell?
That outside of an edge rusher, they're going to draft a player at 16th that's not going to start for them right away. And listen, that's what good teams do. I don't think they're going to take a guard. I don't think they're going to take an off-ball linebacker. You and I have been staunchly committed to the notion that, rightfully so, this team does not prioritize those positions this high. You want to talk 10, 15, 20 picks later? Hell yeah. Gannon and Ossenfort would rather do what in free agency, they're signing guys for they're nickel and dime in those positions, right? That shows you how they value them. Evan Brown, come back on a 1-year deal. Isaiah Adams, 3rd round pick. Akeem Gaithers Davis, making no money. He could call their defense. We've narrowed it down, I think. I still think defensive tackle in the right scenario could be in play. I think it's edge rusher, first and foremost still. And listen, they brought in some. We'll talk about that. They brought in a kid today who's more of a second rounder. Then it's cornerback and offensive tackle. Cardinals need an outside corner. We've hammered that point home. We assumed it would be a veteran. Maybe it's Will Johnson. And then, of course, do they love a tackle in this class enough to take it at 16 or maybe in a trade down, ideally?
Yeah.
If Membo and Will Campbell are gone and you just say, thanks, Jonah Williams, but no thanks, or maybe you play the tackle at guard for a year, then kick him over. I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I would still love to take Derek Harmon, or I love Kenneth Grant. I love Walter Nolan. where are those guys playing? How are those guys going to play on this D line? And again, Calais and Dalvin Tomlinson could be gone in a year, right? Yeah. Calais, this is likely it for him. Who knows? And that's not great team building, but it also feels like the Cardinals are going for it a little bit. And I'm just going to say hell yeah to that. Like, hell yeah, let's go. A lot of people feel like Will Johnson is a better prospect than all of the defensive tackles I just named. If that's the case, and he is available for them, and they're freeing and they're shoring up their D-line in other ways, I can't argue about that. That's my initial takeaway. What about you?
No, it does. It opens up my eyes in a completely different, I'm seeing it differently as far as Will Johnson. It looks differently now than it did before the signing of Calais Campbell, because he's fully capable of playing a role that you would envision, the 16th overall pick could play. Like, he can make that impact like next season. I understand beyond that, you gotta find that out. But I think that they view this draft as an opportunity to find that player in day 3 potentially of this draft, right? It's so deep. But could Will Johnson at a premium position come in and fight to play day 1? Because I think he'll, especially with where he comes in as far as the first round pick, he's going to get every opportunity to do so. And now it's just like, when you look at it from the eyes of, okay, your defensive front 7, it's much improved. And the edge group, obviously there's Red Flag City with a couple of top prospects, and then the guys went before you're even on the clock. It just makes sense to lean into a different position, but a prospect that's at the top of his positional draft class. And I think like Will Johnson, or if you look at Barron, Jahdae Barron from Texas, like I think they're very much in play at 16 in where you're drafting. If you're not in the trade down, like the positional value is there. It's not you just saying, hey, let's go get a guard. Let's go get an off-ball linebacker just because those remain the needs. I'm still not. You're not going to be able to persuade me on that unless it's in the form of a trade way down. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think edge remains probably top priority, but it depends on how the dominoes fall, and then look at it as far as probably outside corner and then tackle.
This is a little outdated graphic. We were going to update it, but then, Calais signs with the Cardinals at 38 years old. But there's a name on here that we just got done talking about. I mean, Will Johnson has done a top 30 visit. We don't have a ton of names on this yet. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo is going to join us on Thursday, and we're hoping to have more names to add to this list. Princely, the edge rusher from Ole Miss, he had a top 30 visit. He is more of a trade down second round option. He's not a player I don't think you can take 16th overall. Right. Of those players that we just listed on the screen, maybe Shamar Stewart and Will Johnson are the only two. I would say so. And I would think, if you were asking most people, talent evaluators, like, is Will Johnson a higher ranked prospect than Stewart 9 times out of 10? Probably. Right. Yeah. Given the pedigree, the production, the measurables. Actually, Stewart's measurables are off the charts, but Stewart, he had 1.5 sacks the last 3 years. Well, that's neither here nor there. Yeah. I think we're at a point right now where, outside of Mason Graham, there is not a defensive tackle, maybe to their estimation, that's worthy of the 16th overall pick. Right.
Or we'll get there. Right.
Right. Like, or that we'll get there. Yeah. And I think the edge rusher class, I love Mike Green, the player, the person, James Pierce Jr. There's some concerns about, his likability in the locker room. There's just a lot of questions. What do we know with Ossenfort? They don't mess with any of that, or they haven't to this point yet. I mean, Calais Campbell is like the ultimate locker room leader. I mean, that Calais is what they want. He's the highest standard of character that you can get for a player. I mean, Will Johnson, captain, national champion, played for Jim Harbaugh, like, checks every box. Again, it's still not right. Yeah. It's still not my first preference. My first preference is going best available edge rusher. But guess who needs edge rushers? Let's take a look at the Arizona Cardinals and where they stand as compared to everybody else. Let's look at the draft order if we could, Damon. The Arizona Cardinals are picking 16th for a reason. They won 8 games last year. The teams ahead of them all need edge rushers. I think there it is. So Saints need an edge rusher. Chicago Bears need an edge rusher. San Francisco 49ers. Dallas needs an edge rusher opposite Micah Parsons. Miami Dolphins now. They lose Calais. They could use a D tackle. They have Chop Robinson. Colts need an edge rusher. Falcons need an edge rusher. I mean, like, could this be the inverse effect of what happened last year, where all the offensive players, skill players, and linemen go, and then there's a run on them, and then we get to the middle of the first round, and then there's Dallas Turner and some of the other defensive players. So maybe they're being proactive and are preparing. Regardless, I do think Calais Campbell changes things.
Yeah, he does. And he gives you an option to, look at different positions when, the rest, if you're going to go against the grain, what the rest of the league's going to do, and prepare yourself after that board is pick clean at that single position to pivot and make a really rock solid pick, a player that was overlooked and fell because, the group think as far as, or just the panic in the run on a single position could put the Cardinals in a really good spot to upgrade at a different premium spot. And if it's defensive back and, Travis Hunter is the lone guy off the board by that point, I mean, that falls into the Cardinals' favor extremely well. And I think that just getting the sense of it, and it's complete speculation on my behalf, but you get the feeling that the Cardinals almost like the group at edge after this. Like, I don't think they love anybody at 16, but I think they would love to get some guys at 47 in a pretty tight group with guys you mentioned, like Princely Umanmielen, who came in for a top 30. And I'm sure Landon Jackson, working out here, hanging out with Damon, I'm sure he's a top 30 guy, no doubt about it. To go with Tui Malaloa, I mean, that's a group that you can easily find somebody that you put right in your rotation at 47th overall.
I mean, like, they manifested a trade down in 2023 when a lot of us thought it wasn't realistic. Like when Anthony Richardson fell to 4. I mean, the Ossenfort got a team to come up and trade for Will Anderson Jr. and give credit. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that trade. It was a good trade. But he manifested it. Can he do the same thing at pick 16? I bet his preference is to trade down and to get an additional pick. I think he would love to be able to drop 5 to 7 spots and get a third and a fourth, maybe even a second, a third and a future third, and then take one of those pass rushers. Like, we've talked about it. And I don't want to sit here and say it's okay to pass on a top 10 to 12 prospect in Will Johnson, because again, if he's there at 16, you'll have to make a decision. But if you drop to, let's say, 21, 22, 23, and you add a premium day 2 pick in the process, and you take a guy that you were already in consideration of taking at 16, so many of these guys are interchangeable. We always say it, between about pick 20 this year and 40 to 45, there's not a huge difference. It's scheme fit, it's measurables, it's medical, it's positional value. I think in a perfect world, you're trading down, you're adding a pass rusher, whatever it is. I think Landon Jackson is a perfect target. I think he's a fringe first rounder that you take in the 20s and you add a couple additional picks for this roster. Then you go and you get another developmental tackle and defensive lineman. And if you want to take a corner or a wide out, but I'm not sitting here and demanding that they pass on an elite player if they fall to pick 16, but in a year where the draft feels like it's already watered down, I don't think Will Johnson is going to be available at pick 16.
Yeah. I mean, so what are you willing to get up the board? What are you willing to give up?
Well, I don't think I would trade up for him. I think I would just, I would hope that there's a player that another team has fallen in love with that the Cardinals are not in a position to take. And then there's an opportunity for you to trade down.
Yeah.
But it puts a lot of uncertainty around this pick now, where, again, you'll never hear this podcast say take a guard or an off-ball linebacker. But, like, does Kelvin Banks Jr. come into play? I don't think you can take Josh Simmons that high at 16. I don't think the kid from Texas is worth the 16th overall pick. He was a slot corner. He's only 5'10". I think that's, again, a trade down option. I mean, we're going to have to get down to brass tacks here pretty soon and say, who is worth the 16th overall pick? Can you rattle off some names?
I mean, who's worth it?
That realistically speaking, that could be there. Who is worth it to you?
it's tough to say just because there's concerns, and this was even before the Calais Campbell signing, and
Right.
like James Pierce Jr.
Mike
like
Green.
now the Campbell thing just does kind of create snap opportunities for Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant, even though that he's not going to play the same position as Kenneth Grant on the D line. But it just becomes a little bit more, the water gets a little murkier, but it also opens up, Will Johnson looking more, he would be him or Josh Simmons, because, Fran Duffy's sitting there and saying Josh Simmons, as far as Cardinals criteria, checks about every box outside of the injury that he sustained to his knee in his last season at Ohio State. I mean,
is that good value though?
Yeah. I mean, he's a starting tackle in this league. He projects to be. He's a big, athletic, premium position. Like that's what, Monti Ossenfort has a track record of selecting in the draft in his last two drafts. So I don't know. I mean, I think that Simmons before Calais Campbell would be a tough pill to swallow. Same thing for Will Johnson, just because he's like, hey, the need's there. And you feel like even if you're reaching for some different prospects down the board, it would be justifiable more so than taking a player outside of that big need that you have. Now your need is less, not completely fulfilled, but it softens the blow significantly.
I think we're on the same page. I think Will Johnson is a outlier that you have to consider now if you hadn't already, and then it's a line of scrimmage player of some kind. We got more content coming up here, plus your super chats. We got 1,700 watching live. Drop us a like. It's PHNX Cardinals. So flipping loaded here on a football Tuesday, almost as loaded as the Inner Circle K app. That's right. It's America's thirst stop. Free membership program. So easy to download. Enter your email, your phone number, and bada bing, bada boom, you are fully enrolled. After that, just pull up to the pump, enter your phone number, and you're getting deals on deals. Like save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day after the fact. There's no need not to do it, right? You're always going to be saving money. The only way not to do it is if you just don't like saving money, which, to each their own, I guess. But how about the rest of us? We're having access to the exclusive member deals and discounts, like a 79-cent Polar Pop or Froster. Yes, sir. Thirst has met its match. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Again, terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com, Bo, for more details.
Man, Polar Pop would just hit so hard right now. Even, it's not like scorching hot, but it's nice out. Look, also with the nice weather and you got the wind blowing, maybe you want to get those all pro shade concepts in working order. Get that custom fit awning. Block out some of the sun, block out some of the wind blowing around there. Hundreds of designs of colors to choose from to match any home from our friends over All Pro Shade Concepts. You can work with they work with your HOA as well. You don't have to deal with the pesky HOA. Motorized, retract, remote control, even have LED lighting to light up your patio under the awning. It looks great. You look like you could broadcast your podcast from your patio with the All Pro Shade Concepts. Most trusted local shade company, voted #1 ranking from Arizona for patio shades in 2024. BBB A+ ratings with over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. In business for 20 years in the Valley. Started making shades, custom shades for their friends, and then have, by the way, just been around for 2 decades. Licensed, bonded, insured. Give them a call today, 623-204-1476. That's 623-204-1476. Or visit allproshadeconcepts.com to schedule your free estimate.
Cardinals are leveling up. You can too by becoming a diehard. Go PHNX.com, liking this video. Again, 1,750 watching live right now. Drop us a like. Again, we are inching ever so closer to 40,000 subscribers. And again, I'm sitting here and I do want to pivot off the beaten path real quick because we were going to talk about this earlier. But man, oh man, was my co-host's presence missed greatly at the NFL owners meeting. So just full context,
man,
Bo last year took a red eye to Florida to sit with Jonathan Gannon and rep out a bunch of significant questions that everybody's been asking, repurpose them on social media. And then this year, I mean, our schedules are a little bit different, right? You couldn't make it this year. You plan on going probably next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hear very much coming out of the owners meeting as it relates to the Cardinals, and that's disappointing. So if you like what we do here, if you like the show and you like this kind of content and you want the information, subscribing to PHNX Sports helps enable all of that. Liking these videos, it only helps our coverage be infinitely better. But Bo, your presence was missed, my guy.
Oh man, I appreciate that. But also at the same time, like, it's a disservice to the fans of this team. Like, if you're a Bears fan, you got to see an unbelievable amount of content and just news reports from Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles, because the media does a good job covering the Bears, including, Adam Hogue had a great sit down with Ben Johnson. I encourage you, if you're not a Bears fan, go check that out. Nobody, asked the questions to Ben Johnson like Hogue did, and got the insight that I'm sure Bears fans were all craving. But if there was one team in the entire NFL that was completely underserved as far as getting insight from their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, like, he would have not even known he spoke today. And, I feel like Tim Tebow, after Florida just lost to Ole Miss, a promise to this fan base, I'm not going to miss another one. I thought we were going to get at least something. We really didn't get anything from your head coach. And I read the content. I seek it just like all of you. And it was completely underserved. That's not going to happen again. We have the ability to get out there. We're going to continue to get out there. Not going to miss another one of these things.
Yeah. And full transparency, it was, you and I have just been busy. I mean, I think people know this. You're expecting your second, your wife. And so you got a lot going on, man. And at the end of the day, this podcast is a direct reflection of the 1,800 people we have in this chat. And man, I was disappointed today. And, but we know that next year, Bo Brack will be there, because he has to be. Otherwise, we get very little from the owners meeting.
Next to nothing. I got to give credit. I think it was Jalen Blair in the chat pointing out we were missing one name from our reported top 30 visits. We added Princely. Was it Princely from Ole Miss?
Yeah.
But Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, according to Aaron Wilson, on March 27th, he had visited with the Cardinals. So we've got at least 7 names we can confirm. So if you're keeping track of the 7, 4 of those players are edge rushers.
None of them you would love at 16. Scorton or Stewart, you could. I mean, I've seen it mocked. It's not crazy. Princely is a trade down. Landon Jackson is a trade down. We assume if he takes the top 30. Really, the only guy that they have brought in that you're like, well, that guy's a firm top 15 pick is Will Johnson. So like that, I mean, indirectly.
Well, I mean, like, Shamar Stewart's getting a lot of run because of his combine performance.
Well, that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like, what? Where's Mike Green at? Where's James Pierce Jr.? Where's Mykel Williams? Where's Jalen Walker? Yeah. Is it just kind of known that these guys are going to be gone? Is it known that the Cardinals aren't interested? I mean, like, top 30 visits aren't nothing. Marv was brought in last year, and it was just like a parade. Remember that? And then it was Neighbors, and then it was Roma Dunze. And, we knew they loved Joe Alt. We knew they loved Darius. Like, it was known.
Arnold. Yeah, it was like, yep.
We knew. They were playing in a sandbox with about 3 to 4 guys at 4, and then a sandbox of about 3 to 4 guys at 27. Will, if you had asked me right now, like, who's the betting favorite, how do you not say it's Will Johnson right now? I just, like, from a gambling perspective of the things we know they desperately need an outside corner, and we know that the second best corner, in my opinion, in this draft, they brought him in for a top 30 visit, and he checks all the boxes: height, weight, speed, tackling, all that. I mean, it's just like that. To me, I would peg him as the favorite right now. Yeah. And look, I mean, Damon, I thought we were smart because we were going to take, Cardinals take a defensive lineman, but that does include edge. Like, I'm not going to rule edge out. But who are they taking? Right. Look, it's a great question. And it's one for, if you're watching, if you're one of our many streaming partners, been tuned in, switch on over to gophnx.com. The journey continues. Our conversation continues, but thanks for watching along with one of our many streaming
partners. But yeah, I mean, outside of Stewart, and like if we just put up on our Twitter account today from our guy Fran Duffy, like he wouldn't want to be the organization that takes Stewart, who has an unprecedented lack of production, both rushing the passer and in the run game, that's really never been touched, in the last decade in the NFL draft. Like he's got 3 cases of players that were drafted in the first 3 rounds that had equal or, lower production than Shamar Stewart. And they were all, 3rd round picks or lower. Stewart, there's a resume there that is a massive red flag, despite what you see as far as the workouts and the measurements.
I'm with Jacob in the chat. He just put this. Seems like it's between James Pierce Jr. and Will Johnson. I think those are the best 2 players.
We just don't know if what their interest level is in James Pierce Jr. He's got the things that the noise surrounding James Pierce Jr. It's a potential that they don't even like have a top 30 visit with James Pierce Jr.
Make him go live with Calais. Calais and him are going to get an apartment together in Scottsdale or Paradise Valley and make James Pierce Jr. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe the plan is we're going to get Mike Green or more than likely James Pierce Jr. to live with Calais Campbell.
But they'd have to vet that. Like we discredit Steve Keim a lot on this podcast. The one thing he did vet very well is if Patrick Peterson, his family, could bring along Tyrann Mathieu. But Mathieu had to be a willing participant. Like, this is going to be my second chance after getting pushed off the playing field with a couple different things, mostly marijuana issues in college.
I mean, he was arrested and it was on camera. Like the local news in Baton Rouge covered it, and he was like being put in handcuffs. Like, James Pierce Jr. might just be an asshole. Okay, that's fine. You can have those on your team, right? If they're elite football player. Not everybody has to be a Boy Scout. We've talked about that before. Maybe it's an overcorrection where you're like, Calais has to balance out whomever we bring in at 16 because they might be not a great dude. We'll work on that, though, right? They will have some fun. Josh Sweat's a great guy. But, again, don't take the lesser player. Don't take the lesser prospect. The edge, we feel very confident they're going to take an edge with one of their first 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
And if they trade down, I think it increases the likelihood tenfold. But it's like last year with the receiver. I think I brought this up before. If they didn't take a wideout at 4, right? Remember that? If they traded down with the JJ McCarthy garbage, remember that?
You were like, Brian Thomas Jr., he's trash. I remember you saying that.
We'd have to get some bum like Ladd McConkey or Brian Thomas Jr.
I did not like
those guys stink.
Don't have us pull those clips, my man.
I'm trying to make my point. My point is, if they had taken Joe Alt and we had been waiting until pick 27 for a receiver, times were tough. Times are going to be tough. If they take Will Johnson at 16 and we have to wait till 47 to get a pass rusher, might not be an ideal scenario. So I'm still leaning toward their first pick at some point. It's just going to be an edge rusher, whether it's a little trade up, a little trade down, or it's 16. They're not good enough at that position. Baron Browning, respectfully, is making very little money. He's a backup. Ojulari, you can't count on. Zaven Collins has no juice. And Josh Sweat, and I love Josh Sweat's production now, even more so with the Cardinals, because it's not going to be all on him. He is not a speed rusher. He's a power guy that can help you get 8 to 10 sacks a year at best. They need a blue chip first-round edge rusher. But there are so many this year, and it's seemingly all of them. I'll put Abdul Carter in that situation because of injury. They all have question marks.
Yeah.
And then you're picking the middle. You're not picking 3rd or 4th anymore. Thank the football gods. But now things aren't as cut and dry as they once were.
Right. But here's the difference between last draft and this draft is the edge rushing group and the defensive line group. You do have the ability that if you miss out on, just like wide receiver, you do have the ability later in the draft to address it.
Yeah, for sure.
So like last year, that wasn't the case. You got past Lot 2 and Dallas Turner and Chop Robinson. There just wasn't much left. You got the Darius Robinson, and then like the second round came and there wasn't a whole lot there. like you had, the Bears take, the kid out of Kansas in like the day 3, and there just wasn't options, like viable options, where I think you get to this point. It's almost like the cornerback class of last year, where Monti Ossenfort, if he can trust his draft board, and he's sitting in 47, is quickly approaching, and he's still got, a pretty good plethora of like pass rushers to pick from, and he's got like, I could even trade down and still get a guy that I feel confident in. Like, just like he did, and he passed on the ability to take Kool-Aid McKinstry, thank God, and Cooper DeJean, who starred in the Super Bowl with a pick 6, but took his guy Max Melton a couple picks later and added draft capital. Like, if he has the ability to do that and make that sweet music, be up there and just kind of waving his wand, like I would trust Monty in his ability to kind of diagnose that area. So like, it is going to be a little bit of a post 16, not necessarily like buyer's remorse, but like, we can't get to our show the next day quick enough and then be back on the clock to address some needs, because I think also the needs are more prevalent than they were last year. Like, you're like, they got 7 top 100 picks. They got to do a lot of work here to rebuild this roster. Now it's just like, we know where the glaring areas remain, and they've got, like, this is your last chance of the offseason to really kind of address them.
Like people's point in the chat saying, if you trade down, maybe extra picks, you take Cam Scatterboo. Don't discount that. Don't discount that, Bull Brock.
Is he playing edge? Wasn't your whole point about edge? And you're sitting here and you want to play fantasy football again?
Scatterboo! Reezy, baby. Let's jump into these super chats. 1,900 watching live. We got 17 plus super chats and counting. We appreciate your patience and your support. $2. JPJ, James Pierce Jr. at 16. Donovan Jackson at 47. Hashtag I need it. Sign me up for that right now. Sign me up. Let's go. Let's do it right now, Reezy, baby.
I love it. I would be right there with you guys. James Pierce Jr. off the edge with this rebuilt interior defensive line. Josh Sweat, his opposite. Then you got, Baron Browning, Zaven Collins, BJ Ojulari as complementary pieces. And then Donovan Jackson helping out with the, reuniting with Justin Fry. It's just sweet, sweet music. That's what it is. Cardinals send 96, $10. My goodness. Thank you, Cardinal Sent. We appreciate that. Couldn't be happier. Smiling from ear to ear. One of my all-time favorite Redbirds is returning home. I understand his age, but he's still stout and brings insane leadership. Let's effing cook, Monty.
It's a great signing. There is no downside because he's still a good, really good player. And we didn't even talk about the impact on special teams. Last year, he was impacting punting and kicking games for opposing teams. So 0 downside, 100% byproduct of Ossenfort, Gannon being able to lure him back with other options. This is a coup. Congratulations to all involved. 0 downside. Fired up to Cardinalson, one of my favorites. You what? $4.99? Really like Campbell with Robinson and Sweat. Hopefully still a rookie off the edge, but this makes me really confident in the pass rush. It's night and day. It's going to look night and day. Continue to flush it. I'm of the minority. I would still consider a defensive tackle if the value was there at 16, but clearly the further we get into this, the more it's made clear that I do think it's like Mason Graham is a top 10 pick, and then there's a gap between him and the rest of the group. But I have watched this unit go from poverty to this. I would keep flushing it out. Even whether it was, I think it was Albert Breer or somebody else who made a comment about this signing, saying that this could be a great addition, even with the Cardinals going D-line at 16. Like, the perception still is out there. The Cardinals are going to add. Why would they not lean into the strength of this draft class? Edge rusher at 16, and we're ready to roll for 2025. The best defensive lineman, the line group this team has had since Chandler Jones.
I mean, if they added an Alfred Collins in the second round, or who's the kid out of South Carolina, TJ Saunders, or like Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, a bigger, beefier dude, like, then it's like, okay, now they really got something. And 47th overall, probably you get one of the premium positions really checked off at 16, and then in the third round, then you can really kind of do what you like, but still have the chance to get something special. 78th overall, keeping it going. Danny Redbirds, 99. Always great to hear from Danny. Calais back just reminds me of the Super Bowl year when STH caught and crushed my soul. Caught it. Santonio Holmes. He didn't flip and catch that. Anyway, hope it's a good, cheap investment.
Thank you, Danny Redbirds, for the support on that level. I again, like, this is the benefactor of, I mean, they had $41 million before this signing. Trim off another $5 million. I still think there's some money to be spent in the secondary if they opt to do that. But the value of this free agency class was defensive line. They went for Milton Williams. They couldn't get him. They pivoted. They went all in on Sweat. And now it's like, okay, maybe it takes 2.5, 3 weeks to court Calais. Maybe it takes the Browns having to pay Myles Garrett so then you can sign Dalvin Tomlinson, who's a cap casualty. Ossenfort has had a nice offseason. He's got to stick the landing here. Reezy Baby's back, $2, Bo. Locked in at plus 750, or excuse me, 7,500 to win the Super Bowl.
Big time boost of confidence getting Calais Campbell. I like it, though. I like the passion, no doubt about it. Let me ask you this. When you look back at the 2024 schedule, if they had this defensive front seven, what's their record? What games do they win that they ended up losing because they couldn't generate enough pressure?
They beat the Vikings. They probably beat the Rams.
Beat the Panthers, right?
I think the Lions.
Beat the Lions.
Let's not do this. I don't want to do this.
Just curious.
They win probably 10. They go from an 8-win
game
team.
Is a lot closer. It's not a route.
I think what the Cardinals did with the D-line this offseason is more than what the Bears did with their O-line this offseason in terms of flipping the script on one of the worst position groups in the NFL.
Nobody would be bold enough to say that.
I will. I'll do it. I'll put my hand up and do it.
People just have the love affair with the Bears and overpaying for, those two guards, where the Cardinals were savvy, I think, getting a couple of vet defensive linemen.
I would say conservatively they had 2 wins. They go from an 8-win team to a 10-win team conservatively
for the draft.
Yeah. Short stack Goblin. How about that? 199 all around win for Monty and the organization. Monti Ossenfort, again, we blew him smoke when things were looking a little bleak. That first week of free agency, midweek, right? He's had a nice free agency. I mean, if they sign Asante Samuel Jr. before the draft, how's this group look? I love that he's equipping Nick Rollis with the tools to unlock Nick Rollis into the kind of defensive coordinator. I mean, we already think the world of Nick. Yeah, he is putting Nick Rollis in a position to be one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. I would love for the Cardinals to stick it at the LA Rams this year when everybody's going to be slobbering all over their defense and the Cardinals maybe jump them defensively.
Yeah. You got Carice Tonga and Roy Lopez exit this organization and you replace them with Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell.
Pretty good.
Not bad. Keeping it going. Reezy Baby back. Do Nichols and Jones, do they have any trade value at all? No, they don't.
They would be signed if the Cardinals cut them, because every team needs defensive line. But Cardinals are just playing in a different sandbox now. I think Justin Jones has a good chance to make the team because he's always been a better pass rusher. I think Bilal Nichols is cut.
They both are versatile guys. They can play almost any position on the defensive line. That plays into their favor as well. Tim, $4.99. Thank you, Tim, for this. And clearly, if there was enough confidence in Nichols Jones, we would have not had to make 3 major investments after signing in D-Rob, Tomlinson, and Jones.
I think it's an indictment, Tim, of how they looked before they got hurt. I keep beating that drum. If they look good and then they got hurt, then you're like, okay, maybe we can roll. They just aren't good enough players. If where the Cardinals want to go this year, you can't count on them. If they're backups and they surprise you and they're on the team, so be it. But I just love Ossenfort. Also check the box where bad general managers double down on their mistakes, right? Like the Colts right now, just doubling down on Anthony Richardson. I know they signed Daniel Jones, and it's a different scenario, but
I know they signed Daniel Jones. Like, that's a solution.
Right. Howie Roseman's the best because he's like, I made a mistake. I drafted Jalen Reagor ahead of Justin Jefferson. Boom, I'm trading for A.J. Brown. I'm not blowing smoke up everybody's you-know-what. Like, this summer, we talked about it, and it's not their fault because he's got a no-trade clause. like the Suns are going to talk everybody into Bradley Beal before next season because they have no choice, right? Ossenfort has a choice. It's called getting better and raising the floor, and he's doing a good job of that.
I like this this chat name. How about Booms 499? Look at this profile pic too. Elite from the last time we saw Calais Campbell play in person when the Cardinals walked off the Dolphins with a Chad Ryland field goal. You're welcome.
It does feel a little personal, you know? It feels a little personal, honestly. And I'm not saying Booms' profile pic. I'm saying the walk-off field goal with me in attendance, the getting my hope up about Calais the whole offseason, just for him to be, snatched up by the Cardinals. It feels a little personal.
Costco guys are a part of the show, though. Damon.
That profile pic is
it is beast.
That.
It is beast.
Wait,
Last row.
Is your tongue out?
Listen, it was an emotional. It was hot. Thankfully, we weren't in the sun. We were high up. It was the humidity in Florida.
You were close to the sun.
Yeah,
I
was.
Elevation.
Thanks for those tickets. Boom, $4.99. You're welcome, guys. When he was on the Ravens a couple years ago, they had a preseason game here, and I got a pick with him, and I asked him to come back to the desert. Well, Booms, we appreciate you. Thank you for your service. I think in all seriousness, I think it speaks to what Gannon and Ossenfort are building here. Like, he's not coming back here if they're on the downturn. I think he looks at, and I'm sure he'll say all the right things in his presser. I think he looks at the Cardinals as a team on the rise.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not going to go and he's not just going to punt on his final year in the league. Like, he's got ties to some really good organizations that are on the precipice of something special. And he decided, okay, want to go to a team that's trending in the right direction. Let's jump to Shaft here for $25. This super chat.
Thank you, Shaft.
With Calais back home, so generous. Yeah, we focus on edge. Green or Pierce at 16. Barron or Johnson at 16. If they're gone, trade down. Got a couple other names. Ivy, Swenson, Sawyer. Jack Sawyer? Cornerback, guard, tackle, edge. Now the top focus. Cardinals 12-5 in 2025.
I love it. We appreciate you, Shaq.
Jack Sawyer is the only way you can get me out on this offseason of
defensive
front seven.
Never. Jack Sawyer running around
will take him down a notch.
Jack and the boys running around with these new defensive linemen. Even these defensive linemen can make Jack Sawyer look good. Shaft, I can't wait to party with you, brother, at the draft party. Looking forward to it. What's the likely? Give me a percentage based on what we know about this team that they would consider Mike Green at 16. Are you going 0?
No, I don't know. It was just reckless speculation. I have no idea. It's one of the things that I've enlisted our guy Mike Garofolo to hopefully give us some insight. Like, I'll keep that door open if there's a report of a top 30 visit. But if there's no top 30 visit, I think that's a nail in the coffin of that potential union. Dana R, $5 with DT and defensive end depth in this draft. I'd rather have 3 rookies than Jones, Nichols, and Collier. Wouldn't be surprised.
I think we're getting a rookie D tackle, Dana. So no issue with that. Dalvin and Calais can do the heavy lifting from veteran leadership, stability. Darius is going to be good. And again, I love that this doesn't put a bunch of pressure on him to come in and be a world beater. Collier was good last year. I liked LJ Collier.
But is it in the form of, a Norman Lott? Is it in the form of, CJ West from in Indiana, like down the draft board? Like what we first initially thought, it's the Walter Nolans of the world. It's the Kenneth Grants, where now you're looking like not second tier, but probably third and fourth tier. Still, you'd be like, okay, these guys can come in and properly develop. Somebody who knows about develop. Yeah, go ahead.
I just feel like they've drafted one late round defensive lineman and they hit a home run with it in terms of where they picked him. Let them do that again. I have no issue with that. I think you've got a greater likelihood with this team to hit a late round defensive tackle than an edge rusher. I think edge rusher, you just kind of know early on. I think those are harder. But Milton Williams was a 4th rounder for a reason. Like Grady Jarrett, like these guys can be found in the middle round. So Whereas look around the NFL, the best pass rushers, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Brian Burns, most of the time, those guys are first or second round picks.
Yeah. Our guy Donnie picking spreads, loves the draft, got some valuable insight. Will Johnson looking more likely, sounds good to me.
I love it. I love it, my guy. And again, it's about quality now. Is he the best overall player at a premium position? And is the defensive line and not in dire straits? That's Will Johnson doesn't impact this team if the Cardinals' defensive line is still mashed potatoes. But now that it's significantly better, it's like, oh, okay, maybe he can vie for, defensive rookie of the year. He's starting opposite Max Melton. What does that do for Garrett Williams? Can he be all pro? There's a trickle down effect there. No doubt about it.
Our guy Jonathan Castro checking in, $4.99. Thank you, Jonathan. If Will Johnson's on the board 16, he's a must draft, right?
I don't know if it's a must draft, but I think it's like it probably is their preference. I mean, we broke it down, top 30 selections, right? Like, how many of them are worth the 16th overall pick? I think one guy right now. Yeah. And who's in that group of outside, like fringe top 10 guys that you could sniff around? They haven't brought in those guys yet. Yeah. Like we'll talk about it. Like, why isn't Jalen Walker taking a visit? Why isn't Mykel Williams taking a visit? Right? Yeah, when are those guys coming?
Right. Yeah, we'll see. Like, I'm sure way more prospects than we know have taken visits. It just hasn't been reported. Here's the thing about corner. Like, once you get past, I think maybe even Barron, and I don't know enough yet. I mean, I know about Will Johnson. I know about Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Once you get past like that first wave, like, does it benefit the team to look in, the Maxwell Hairstons of Kentucky or Thomas from Florida State? You got guys down the draft board that project to be pretty good players, but is it going to be, Benjamin Morris, a local kid from Brophy, he played at Notre Dame? Like, are these guys going to be able to, you can definitively say he's better than Elijah Jones, or he's going to be a guy that's going to, like, I think they wanted there was a veteran that they had in mind and they weren't able to get it done. Do they benefit in beyond the first round corners in this, in really improving this roster?
I think it's a great point. I don't think so. I think Will Johnson is almost a special circumstance. It's not a great corner class to begin with. Last year, it was a significantly better corner class. That's where, like, you stray from the norm when you take Will Johnson, but then you get right back on track with 47 and 78 and lean into the strength of this draft. No doubt about it. Reezy baby, $5. Philly wins by having a deep defensive line. It doesn't need to be at 16, but still add in the top 100. D-line, O-line need to be the best position groups. It's a great guard class. I'd be surprised if they didn't add a guard in the middle rounds. I mean, listen, Calvin Beachum and Jonah Williams could be on the last years of their deals with the Cardinals. We know Williams has got a void year maybe, and Calvin's on a 1-year deal. Like, they need a right tackle of the future at some point. And I think it would behoove them to get a developmental guy. Again, I think just more and more this speaks to, can they trade down in the 20s, get a pass rusher there, add one more day 2 pick, and with day 2 pick, you're going BPA, offensive and defensive linemen, and you're staggering those picks. You got your edge rusher, the one you coveted, and then you're just going, who's best available, D tackle, O tackle, offensive guard, maybe mix in a corner, Scattaboo here nor there. Like, that's you're speaking my language with that combination.
Yeah. Close to 2,000 people watching live. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're watching on Twitter, jump over to the YouTube streets and join the chat. Like Alberto for $4.99 with Campbell in the locker room. Do you consider a player with character concerns like Pierce Jr.? Kind of talked about it. You think so?
I would.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a vetting process. There's still like utilizing the interviews at the combine and the top 30 visits to see if this is even somebody that, like, you can reach, right? If it's somebody that's just not going to be moldable or developable, like you can't develop them, like it'd be tough. Like, because sometimes You can have the best locker room infrastructure, and if a player's just in his own head and not willing to listen, it's not worth it.
Well, I mean, how many times did Alden Smith with the 49ers was an extreme example. That team had Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, and that guy, he flamed out. There was the guy for the Cowboys. And again, James Pierce Jr. has done nothing wrong from, with authorities legally.
Yeah.
Like there are reports that he's just like not a good guy to be around, right? I don't want to use the term like locker room cancer. I think that's a little disrespectful or poison or whatever, but like you got to make sure it's not something that's going to have a trickle down effect. Can we put that aside for a second and like how jazzed up we would be to go to training camp this year and it's Sweat, Darius, Calais, Tomlinson, and James Pierce Jr. Oh my God. It would be the most unbelievable turn of events. We have never been back harder than that group. I mean, just night and day difference. We have never been more back.
Is this Taco Corp? Is that the name? Yeah. $4.99. Love the Clay's pickup. Guy can still ball. Could have a Watt Allen level impact on D-Rob and Stills and opens up the draft for JV's top fullback at 78.
I think it opens it up if they trade down Taco Corp. No doubt about it. Man, this draft.
Huge corporation, Taco Corp.
This move alone, a 1-year contract with 38-year-old really juiced up this draft in terms of like not knowing where this team could swing. And it's exciting. It's a little bit unnerving, but it's exciting.
Yeah. Big Taco Corp. Tim G, y'all gonna hate me, but trade down to the mid-20s for Burton. Call me Matt Miller, but he's my easy wide receiver 3 in this class.
Tim, I know that these defensive linemen are in good hands with Nick Rollis. I do not want to see more malpractice receiver play with Drew Petzing and what he wants to do offensively. I know Drew Petzing will take great care of an offensive lineman and a running back because it's in his DNA. I just don't. There are not enough targets to go around right now. In a year from now, if we're talking about pivoting off of Petzing or he's evolved and it's like there's a huge gap, they need a third receiver, or they need somebody with Michael Wilson to compete with, let's have that conversation. In a bad receiver class or an underwhelming receiver class, I'm not using my first pick on one. Even like I saw somebody earlier, it's like just take T-Mac now at 16. I don't think that's in play here.
Was it Damon? Did Damon tweet that? Adrian, 199 super sticker. Thank you so much, Adrian. Reezy Baby, you think Adrian chimed in with a chat? We'll get to it as soon as we find it. Reezy Baby, bigger Arizona legend. Calais or Scat?
I think we're talking about different fan bases sometimes that may overlap. That's tough, man. I would probably go Calais Campbell over Cam Scattaboo. I mean, Calais, but like is Scattaboo, I don't know the traditions with ASU football. Like, will Scattaboo have his number retired for ASU?
Probably.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Honestly, at first I was pretty against it, but I think just the fact that Calais Campbell is a defensive lineman and it's harder to like market that to people that Cam will go down as a bigger Arizona sports athlete because like Jake Plummer is still like the guy at ASU. You know what I mean? I think they're going to remember Scat for 50 years until their next massive New Year's Six Bowl loss. You know,
he was all right. He was the best player on the
Scat of that Super Bowl. Like Fitz was the guy that in a championship loss, you're just like, oh my God, what a performance. He wasn't the reason they lost that day. Same thing could be said for Scat. I don't know if you could like Calais was a big part of that early in his career, but that's.
I mean, Cam's the best player on the best team in ASU history, right? Like this was the best ASU team ever, and he was the best player. He was the face of the team. And again, it's not the NFL, but Calais was a rookie when they made the Super Bowl. So
Adrian, high hopes for my Cardinals. And then last super chat. How about is it Guillermo?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Rodriguez. Sorry, guys. U.S. money too expensive for Brazilians. Okay.
No apologies.
Biggest fan in Brazil. We don't care. We're not going to turn our nose up at any currency. Just can't trust Kyler anymore. Team is shaping up, but we need him to step up.
I think you would say the same thing. And I think these moves signify that this roster is being fortified. It's funny, Kyler and Calais this past never crossed. They were a year or two apart.
Yeah.
2019 and 2016, 17. Now they get to play together. There's something poetic about that. It is all on Kyler Murray this year, but they're fortifying this roster where Kyler Murray doesn't have to be perfect, and that's okay. Bo and I said this before the move. I think this is a 10-win team, and I think this fortifies it. Injuries, notwithstanding here in the next 6 months, hopefully there's none. Cardinals have a playoff team in Arizona for the first time, I think, since 2021.
Bernardo also checking in from Brazil. That's awesome.
What's up,
international
fellas?
pod? Just an international podcast. That's all we're about.
2,000 people watching live, Bo. I want to tell everybody right now, please, please, please hit that like and subscribe. And then I'm going to plug it one more time here. If you are in the area, if you have no plans on draft night, we want to see you at Gila. We want to party with you. It is our best event we do every single year. I promise it is first class all the way with our friends, family, etc. Bo and I are not off in a different room by ourselves. We are with you guys for every single selection, 5, 6, 7 hours, full coverage on and off air, personalities, giveaways. Damon, let's see that graphic one more time. Please get your tickets now. It helps us exponentially, and it's the best possible draft party in the desert. You're not going to find a better one. I don't care who's putting it on. Thursday, April 24th at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. Myself, Bo, Damon, the whole group. GM Espo, I'm sure, will be there. MR Social Person does a phenomenal job. Leah, Shane, the entirety of the group. We want to see you there. Come party with us right now. Get your tickets. All you can eat. Again, as many times as you want to go back up, load your plate up. The food is immaculate. Plus, you get 3 drink tickets. So again, 20% off if you're a diehard. Get your tickets now, my friends.
Shaft, just calling it how it is. PHNX draft party is much better than the Cardinals draft party. Thank you, Shaft. Appreciate that, man. But we agree. We agree. We didn't say it, but we also agree. So get there. Take advantage of it. Get the drink tickets. Get the meal, the food. It's going to be awesome. And the vibes, they're going to be unmatched. And somebody was asking, who's our hold the line prospect? We still haven't identified that prospect yet. That's where we have to put in some work. Our top 100 board, it helped that process. Make sure you become a diehard at a discounted rate today. Get access to that full top 100 board and see what we're talking about behind the scenes. Also, along with the exclusive member Discord. The only way you access that is by becoming a diehard as well. We're almost at 300 likes. Let's get us there before we close out here. We'd appreciate it. It does wonders for us. Gets us in front of more eyes and ears. We'd appreciate that. But it was a banner month in March and already shaping up to be a huge April here for this humble blue-collar podcast, as some people call it.
Blue-collar, fanboy, pom-pom waivers, all the above here. Drop us a like. Subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, by the way. PHNX Cardinals. Hit a follow and be inclined. Leave us a 5-star review. It allows us to get Mina Kimes and Mike Garofolo and Fran Duffy and all the elites. Speaking of Fran, he's back tomorrow. We're going to ask him about Will Johnson. We're going to ask him about who are some renewed options now Calais Campbell is in the fold. In the meantime, big thanks to our guy, Damon Dawg, who's pulling triple duty this week. Of course, Bo Brack. I'm Johnny Venerable. We're back mañana. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.